You know, we all know a positive attitude is a lot healthier than eating a glazed donut. I don't know why I came up with that, but I just did. Hey, welcome to another Rare Leader Conversation. I'm Tony Jalen, joined by the wonderful.
Danielle Jalen.
See, like how I do that, everyone? Hey, you know, we all know that positive thinking positive is good for us. But putting that belief into action, that may be a little bit difficult at times. So today we're going to talk about part one of back to basics, like how to develop a positive attitude. Because the truth is, you can control your attitude regardless of what is going on around you. So, we're going to share some practical steps today, two of them actually, to understand yourself more clearly and make each day a more joyful and rewarding experience. So, let's first off start with this one. Question your assumptions when understanding your attitude. How can that help us be more positive, Danielle?
Well, I think sometimes when you take a look at why a certain feeling is coming up, like what are you thinking about, and having that attitude towards can change the way that you look at the situation versus like what happened before this, before I started feeling this way, or um, just being able to kind of evaluate and examine why the feeling came up.
Yeah. And I think, too, I'm guilty of this when it comes into assumptions. We sometimes create this narrative in our mind about a situation. And where I tell people too, you got to learn to distinguish between beliefs and facts, to let go of your limitations. Um, I think it's an important thing to consider because, I just had a situation recently where it was a business partnership where they heard from the grapevine that one of my teammates was using another source to go ahead and quote unquote get their leads in. So they called me up going, whoa, whoa, like, why are you doing this? What am I doing wrong? I'm like, whoa, time out. Like, you're not doing anything wrong. Like, whoever said you're doing anything wrong? But it was this thing that they had in their mind that it was an assumption, right? That they weren't doing their job to their ability. Now, again, that's on them, not me. But I think sometimes we just got to pause before jumping to conclusions, before jumping off the cliff and saying, oh my gosh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. We got to slow down, take a breath, and like, all right, let's go ahead. What's facts versus our beliefs? So that's number one. Question your assumption when it comes to understanding your attitude around things. Number two, we got to watch our language. How come, Danielle? How come we got to watch the words in which we speak? Because Ezekiel, our son, sometimes I'll say this: I am hungry. He goes, "Oh, hi, hungry. I'm Ezekiel." What makes this such an important thing when we're looking to understand our attitude?
Well, I think the words that we speak feed into the energy that we have. And so, um, even kind of reflecting back on this weekend, like we looked at, the tournament that we played in, that the boys played in. And I think for a lot of us, it was like there's this one team that we just have to beat. Like, oh my gosh, they've beaten us this many times. Like, we have to beat them. And all the other games that we played were like, we got to win this game so we can get to this match. And I think when we reframe what our thoughts are and what our words are, it allows our energy to flow differently. So what we were playing because we wanted to win and get to the goal to the championship match. But then when we got there, all of a sudden our energy changed like, oh my gosh, now we have to beat this team. We have to beat this team. Where instead of focusing on winning, so we won the gold, we were focusing on beating somebody, which put a more negative energy out there
Mm,
versus focusing on what were we doing to win all these other matches to get to this point.
that's very well said. I wish I would have thought about that in our first time out this last week because we didn't win, didn't beat them in the championship. We took second. Yeah, that's so important, right? I mean, that's what comes back to our perspective drives our actions. And by watching our words, they can make it a big time impact on it, because where our focus goes is where our energy is going to go to. So, my encouragement is to choose statements we hope. Um, Avoid exaggerations that can turn like minor irritations into a major disaster. And if you've listened to these talks Daniil and I have done, you've heard me say this phrase. And some of you may hear this phrase and go, oh my gosh, that's a little drastic. That's a little over the edge. Ask yourself, okay, is anyone dying or going to jail? Some people go, well, someone might go to jail after I get done with them. I get it. I get it. But, it puts it in perspective. It makes you go, okay, you got to go ahead and define reality, but we also then got to give hope. And by giving hope, it a lot of times comes down to our words. So today's a short talk today. We want to give you just a little nugget of, how can we get back to basics when it comes to really developing a positive attitude? Because it's like a muscle. You got to work at it. And there's things that are going to go ahead and knock you off your horse every so often. How do you get back on the horse? Well, number one, you got to question your assumptions. Feelings aren't facts. And number two, you got to watch your language. So final thoughts, Daniil, as we go ahead and wind up for today.
I think just, examine where, you are in the day and where you're starting yourself, to see what kind of mindset that you're in, like, and question those assumptions that you're having, like what made me come to this conclusion. And two, maybe sometimes what you speak to yourself, maybe you need to just go put your hair up in a ponytail and change the look of the day, and things may start going in a different direction of how you're talking to yourself.
That's true too. So I guess the tip of the day is sometimes put your hair in a ponytail, and you know what? Change it up. All right, we appreciate you guys for engaging with us today. If you found value in today's discussion, please make sure to share this. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube underneath Rare Leaders, and also in the private Facebook group of Rare Leaders. So until next week, we'll talk more about some back to basics, developing that positive attitude. I'm Tony Jalen, joined by
Daniil Jalen.
Go out and be a Rare Leader.